Coming up on today's Locked On Dodgers, the Dodgers won the game. The Dodgers did not do much at the trade deadline, but today's episode will not be about any of that really. It's going to be about Vin Scully, who we learned passed away at the age of 94. We'll talk about Vin Scully as our memories. We'll talk about Vin Scully in general. We'll talk about Vin Scully and anything we can. That's what's on tap, so make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Yo, 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 Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. Make your moments sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now is the Blue Nile anniversary sale. Save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry and 25% off on engagement ring settings. Shop stress free and find your favorite piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. This is Locked On Dodgers, and you can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And make it easy on yourself and subscribe in all those places and never miss a day because you know we're not going to. If this is your first time listening or watching, I'm Vincent Samperio, and this is my co-host Jeff Snider, and we are both lifelong Dodger fans, which means we are both lifelong Vin Scully fans, which means Vin Scully shaped the way that we enjoyed baseball and enjoyed Dodgers, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I got the Vin hat on from Baseballism for anyone that is going to be looking for Vin stuff over the next few days. And yeah, Jeff, real quick, we'll just touch on the Dodgers won. We found out during the game that Vin Scully had passed. And then trade deadline, the Dodgers traded for Joey Gallo, traded away Mitch White and Jake Lamb. We'll get into all that stuff tomorrow. There's not going to be too much that changes from today to tomorrow with that stuff because Vin Scully was with the Dodgers for 67 years, was in our lives. Pretty much anybody I know, as long as they've lived, and he deserves at least an episode from us. And yeah, Jeff, not what we were expecting to talk about today, and definitely not something I ever expected to really have to talk about or even want to talk about. But we got to that point, and I'm still in shock.
Yeah, it
Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be.
I got my Vin Scully microphone here. It's of course he was going to die sometime. He was 94 years old. Most people don't live to be that long. But that doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make it, apparently those who knew him well knew that he was sick. And you could kind of tell. I mean, he had joined Twitter last year, hadn't been doing as much lately, and even the last couple times we saw him in different things, you could tell he was getting old. But it doesn't make it any easier. And you know, I had to run out to pick up my son from work during the game, and when we got home, I walked in and looked at the TV, and I saw Joe Davis talking about Vin Scully, and I just like I didn't even know that he had passed away yet, but I'm like, why else would he be talking about this right now? So I grabbed my phone and pulled up Twitter and saw it was just 3 minutes earlier had been the announcement, and my whole family immediately came to me because they know what Vin means to me. Um, like I wouldn't be surprised if I have heard Vin's voice more than anybody else in my life, including people I'm related to, people I've lived with, because, I've been married to my wife for 19 years, but it's not like we talk for 3 hours a day. We say hi, but like actually her talking to me for 3 hours a day, no, only Vin does that, and growing up, we got some games on TV. The games we didn't get it on TV, we got on the radio. And so literally thousands and thousands of hours of Vin talking to me and teaching me about baseball. And I mean, the reason that I love baseball, one of the reasons I love baseball as much as I do is because Vin Scully loved baseball as much as he did. And, so many of my memories all the way through my life until 6 years ago, the first 39 years of my life, Vin Scully was the soundtrack. I remember just 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I was laid up with back problems. I had two back surgeries in 2011, and I was in a lot of pain. And my main memory of that is sitting in my lazy boy down in my basement because it was the only place I could be comfortable and watching Dodger games. And when Vin would say, it's time for Dodger baseball, I'm like, okay, I could deal with a little back pain if it means I get to listen to Vin. One time there was a rain delay. I think it was a Dodgers Padres game, although don't know why it would have been a rain delay, but that's what I remember was Dodgers Padres. But I couldn't sleep. And I was like, I'm going to be up all night. Well, the Dodgers played till 2 a.m. So I got to listen to Vin till 2 a.m. my time because of that rain delay. And that made it all okay. And it's we have a lot of footage, a lot of recordings of Vince, so it's not like we're going to lose his voice, but the world is a worse place because he's not in it anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's really all the sentiments I've been seeing and everything else of we grew up with Vin. Vin was the guy. Vin was baseball grandpa, or for some people, a real grandpa, a real father figure type. And obviously not in physical form, but in emotional form, and in teaching us baseball and in teaching us about a bunch of different things. And for some of the older people, even uh, and remember him from football and stuff like that. And back when he was a national broadcaster, and Vince shared his gift with everybody else. And then for a while, we had him there to ourselves. And yeah, I mean, realistically, I try to sit back and think, like, would I be into the Dodgers as much if I didn't have someone like Vin or Vin, capturing me every night with different stories and the different way he's done it. And I can't say for sure that I would. I mean, I can't say if you hear a lot of these broadcasters from other teams, and it's just like, oh, I'm so glad the Dodgers had Vin. And even now, I'm so glad the Dodgers have Joe Davis and Oro or whoever's with Joe Davis. Uh, and you try to think like, damn, if Vin wasn't there, would I have been this deep into the Dodger fandom? And, I can't say for sure yes, but I can't say for sure no either. And it's also a matter of, you know, because I was so deep into Dodger fandom, that fueled what now is my career. And, would I be where I'm at now covering, but I've been covering sports. Obviously, social media is a little bit different than in Vince's time, but I wanted to be a sports writer from the beginning. Then it ended up becoming social media. And it's like, would I be here without if Vin didn't grab me from the beginning? Because realistically, the LA's had Chick Hearn and the Lakers, but that the Lakers were more of just I'll watch the Lakers. I wasn't necessarily listening. The Raiders growing up, they don't haven't had they're on different TV every week, so you don't really hear the same broadcaster. But Vin was the same guy each and every night, just Vin, and watching it with your dad, watching it with your grandpa, watching it with whoever you would watch it with. That's the memories you have, and all those memories have a soundtrack, like you said, and that soundtrack is Vin Scully in the background. And yeah, even when we haven't had him for a while, but even then, it's still like, not having him on the broadcast, but knowing that he's there is a lot different now than not having him on the broadcast and not knowing that he's not there. So yeah, it's been. I mean, I've been on and off tears since the announcements happened. I can't guarantee I'll make it through this episode without being in more, but yeah, it's just Vin shaped a lot of people in Los Angeles and around the world, and I'm glad to be one of those people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody listening to this or watching this feels the same way about Vinny that we do. And we're not the only ones crying right now. I apologized to my wife tonight. I said, I'm sorry for crying about a stranger. And she said, he's not a stranger. He's family. And he is, and you caught yourself when you said, if we hadn't had somebody like Vin, and then you said, no, if we hadn't had Vin, there was nobody like Vin. There wasn't, you mentioned Chick Hearn. Chick Hearn was a legend. He was great at what he did. He wasn't Vin, nobody is Vin Scully. Nobody ever could be. Oh, we should take a break for capitalism to wipe our tears, Vince.
Yeah, BlueNile.com is here to help you whether you're ready to pop the question or whether you're celebrating a milestone moment. Find jewelry as unique as she is with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Build the engagement ring of her dreams because Blue Nile has simple online tools that let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. Blue Nile's bench jewelers will then handcraft her perfect engagement ring, and each ring is one of a kind. So make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And right now, the Blue Nile anniversary sale is going on. You can save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. All right, Jeff. I mean, there's a lot of ways we can go into this. You've been on social media at all. You've probably seen and been watching and listening to a lot of Vin Scully's greatest calls and best calls and funniest calls. But I think we both have had the privilege of being around Vin Scully, whether it's directly talking to him. I got to ask him a couple questions once in an interview. I never really had a conversation with him, but we've both been in that Vin Scully press box. We've both spent time around him, and everything that I've seen tonight. And Dave Roberts said it after the game, and everything I've seen on social media is the aura of Vin Scully, and how he carried himself like a normal person. And to him he was just a normal person, but to everybody else, I mean, it was awe-inspiring. It was an aura. There was something different about seeing Vince Scully in person, whether you had seen him, whether you saw him walk by, or whether you dealt with him on a daily basis. I mean, I'm sure people that spoke to Vin every day still felt that way about him, of this is Vince Scully, and I'm I get to be around him.
Yeah, I shared on social media. The closest I ever was to Vin was August 13th, 2015. You and I were both in the press box that day. You were there for Dodgers Nation. I was there for Baseball Essential, and after the game, we got to go down in the locker room and hear Matt Latos be passive aggressive about his terrible outing. But before the game, I walked in the press box. I was excited. It was my first time. I'd been in press boxes like spring training games, minor league games, even a couple other major league teams. It was my first time in the Dodger Stadium press box. And I walked in, and Vin Scully was standing right there. And it's like your first time in the press box, and the first person you see is Vin Scully. That's like meeting your first Catholic, and it's the Pope. You know, it's Vin Scully, and he was just right there. And he said hi to me, and I didn't say anything back. He was busy. He was near 1,000 people, but he said hi. Later, I was sitting in the press box dining room, and I was just sitting there and just kind of soaking it all in, and seeing people whose faces I recognized, and Vin Scully walked into the dining room, and then I'm of course just like trying not to stare, but watching him out of the corner of my eye, and I see him like shuffle sprinting across the dining room. I'm like, what's going on? And I turn, and there was a woman walking towards the door. The press box dining room has the glass walls so you can see out, and she's walking towards the door, and she's got stuff in her hands, and he's sprinting across the dining room to open the door for her. Like, Vin Scully, you're Vin Scully. Everybody should be opening every door for you. This press box is named after you. Everybody here, you are everybody's favorite person. And he knew that, you know, but he was, Dave Roberts after the game tonight said he would sum up Vin Scully in one word, gentleman. And he was just such a nice guy. And everybody who ever met him said, yeah, the persona you feel on TV, you feel like you're friends with Vin Scully when you listen to him call a game. And when you meet him in person, oh, you are friends. He's just a friend that maybe he doesn't know who you are, but we all knew Vin, and he was our friend. He was, honestly, I've cried more tonight than I think I did when my grandma died. Like, I love you, grandma, but Vin Scully, oh man, he was the best. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for me, I got to open a door for Vin Scully once, the door to the bathroom one time. So, you're welcome, Vin, for that. I let you into the bathroom ahead of me. But yeah, it was the first time I was close enough to like meet him was when I did get to interview him. It was for, I think, the Harold and Pump Foundation, some gala or something, and it was on the red carpet. And we were Dodgers Nation back. I was with Dodgers Nation back then, and we were just a small little publication. We only got credentialed really because Vin Scully was going to be there. And I'm at the end of the red carpet, and most times when you're at the end of the red carpet, by the time whoever gets to you toward the end, they don't really want to talk anymore. Most of the time, they just skip you. And I remember just yelling out to the PR person, like, "Oh, I'm with Dodgers Nation. Can I just get Vin for a couple questions?" And yeah, that's what I got to do. I think I asked him, obviously about the foundation because you have to do that when you're out at some of these events. And then I asked him about the Dodgers that year. It was either 2014 or 2015, and he gave an answer. But I think that the wildest thing to me, and I don't know why, was the voice was exactly the same. I don't know what I was expecting. I don't know. I've met people before, but never someone that I've heard speak so much, I guess. And I don't know if I was expecting it to be a little different or whatever the case was, but no, it was Vin Scully's voice right there, the same exact voice I heard all my life. So yeah, it was a trip to just have that moment and hear him and be like, oh, he sounds exactly the same. There's no difference about it. And yeah, I mean that's really what it comes down to. I don't Obviously there's not going to be anything that comes down on Vin Scully tonight on social media, but even in general, I've never seen or heard of or read about something where Vin Scully was painted in a negative light, and that's pretty hard to do, especially in this day and age. I know there was, uh, I'm sure there might be something out there, but nothing that I'm ever going to want to hear about anyway. So we keep it like that, and just every moment and for the humility that he showed, sometimes it was just like, all right, Vin, like we get it, you're humble, but embrace it. And he did embrace it. He just embraced it a little bit differently. And he knew what he meant. He knew what it was, whether he wanted that to be like that or not. Probably not. But it was one of those where it never felt fake or disingenuous. It felt like this is who he is. And that's exactly how I felt when I got talked to him the first time, because I was like, oh, this is Vin Scully. He sounds exactly like he does on TV.
Yeah, his voice, that is who he is, and just a genuinely kind man. When he retired, that they did his last home series uh, on that Saturday night. They did Vin Scully Appreciation Night. The day before his last game. Obviously, we all remember his final game with Charlie Culberson's walk-off home run. It's easy to forget that day started with the death of Jose Fernandez, and Vin Scully on his last day on the job at Dodger Stadium had to kind of delicately go through all that, but ending on that moment with Charlie Culberson's home run, and then his tribute to the fans and everything. But on that Saturday night when uh, they gave all the fans a letter from Vin, and I just want to read that letter really quick. What he wrote to us when he was retiring. He said, "Dear friends, many years ago, a little redhead boy was walking home from school, passing a Chinese laundry, and stopped to see the score of a World Series game posted in the window. The Yankees beat the Giants 18-4 on October 2nd, 1936. The boy's reaction was pity for the Giants, and he became a rabid Giants fan from that day forward until the joyous moment when he was hired to broadcast Brooklyn Dodgers games in 1950. Ironically, October 2nd, 2016 will mark my final broadcast of a Giants Dodgers game. It will also be exactly 80 years to the day since that little boy fell in love with baseball. God has been very generous to that little boy, allowing him to fulfill a dream of becoming a broadcaster and to live it for 67 years. Since 1958, you and I have grown up together through the good times and the bad. The transistor radio is what bound us together. Were you at the Coliseum when we sang happy birthday to an umpire? Were you among the crowd that groaned at one of my puns? Did you did you kindly laugh at one of my little jokes? Did I put you to sleep with the transistor radio tucked under your pillow? You were simply always there for me. I've always felt that I needed you more than you needed me, and that holds true to this very day. I've been privileged to share in your passion and love for this great game. My family means everything to me, and I will now be able to share life's experiences with them. My wife, Sandy, our children, Kevin, Todd, Aaron, Kelly, and Catherine, along with our entire family, will join me in sharing God's blessings of that precious gift of time. You folks have truly been the wind beneath my wings, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me on this incredible journey of 67 years of broadcasting Dodger baseball. Heartfelt thanks, Vin Scully. And it's that humility, that line. And later, when we end this episode, I'm going to share his last words of his last broadcast. But he repeated that line of that he always needed us more than we needed him. And I think he really believed that, even though he was wrong.
Yeah. All right. Unfortunately, we got to talk about some other things right now. BetOnline.net. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the number one online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for your sports wagering information. From live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. Right. So we know about Kirk Gibson, the call of the home run. We know about Hank Aaron's home run that broke the record, and Vin was on the call for that. Uh, Tonight we're reminded that Vin was on the call for the catch in San Francisco, or for San Francisco, Joe Montana to Dwight Clark. There's a lot of there's countless moments. The Culberson walk off, we know that. We have the throw your sombreros in the air. We have I think he's called 3 perfect games, 18 no hitters was what they said. There's a lot of different calls. I guess we can kind of just run through whether it's those calls, whether it's the random little stories he told, whether it's, whatever memory. I'm sure you and your memory have a lot more than maybe I do off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of where we go next year of just remembering Vin and anything that was Vin.
Yeah, the Bill Buckner call was another one. His error, he was calling that World Series. The Kirk Gibson home run, I have that entire inning memorized. I've watched that hundreds of times in my life. I have the DVD. I watch it a couple times a year. My kids, when they were younger, they actually knew if they didn't want to go to bed, they could just come and say, "Daddy, can we watch Kirk Gibson?" And okay, you could stay up. Let's watch Kirk Gibson. That's just what we do. And Vin Scully, amazing. One of my favorite things, I remember probably 2014. I was over at my in-laws' house and we were watching the Dodger game, just kind of had it on the background, but loud enough to hear. And Vin is talking about uh, a player from 1952. And it just popped into his head. It's not like he had something prepared. Something happened in the game. It reminded him of this guy who used to play outfield for the Milwaukee or the Boston Braves or somebody. And it was just like, oh, I remember that reminds me of this guy. And I'm like, that was 62 years ago, Vin. Like, why do you remember that? How do you remember that? And just his memory and his love of baseball came through. It's easy to remember the things you love. And, you know, all of that, the fact that he was actually close personal friends with Jackie Robinson is, Jackie Robinson, it's interesting because, you're young enough that it's a lot of people died before you were born. Jackie Robinson died just a few years before I was born. And so, I was talking a week or two ago on Rachel Robinson's birthday about how amazing it is that she's still with us when Jackie has been gone for so long. And I also mentioned, I think it was amazing that Vin Scully was still with us because he called Jackie Robinson's, most of his career and was friends with him. Just Vin Scully was baseball history in human form.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of stuff you can go through, and we've seen. I think Julio was the youngest at this point that he ever called. So born in 90, whatever it was, 96 or whatever it is now, or 98, whatever year Julio was born. And then I
August 12th,
think
1996.
yeah, 96, and then I think he called someone from the early 1900s. So
Dutch
he's
Leonard, born in 1909.
there you go. So he spanned a lot of years and covered a lot of baseball. But for some reason, the one story that always sticks out for me is anytime Yorvit Torrealba came to the plate, and Vin told the story of the origin of his name, how his parents couldn't decide between Yorman and Victor, and they combined it into Yorvit. And he was on the Rockies for a while, so the Dodgers played against them a lot. Played against him a lot, and he must have told that story at least a dozen times every year, almost pretty much every game they played. And it was just one of those things where that's one of the things I remember is, how did Yorvit Torrealba get his name? If I'm ever in like a Slumdog Millionaire situation where I'm going for a $1 million prize, and that's a random question of how did Yorvit Torrealba get his name, I'm gonna know because Vin Scully repeatedly told me how Yorvit Torrealba got his name.
Yeah, and Vin had so many not quite catchphrases, just the way he worded things. Jay Bell. I don't know if you remember Jay Bell. Played for the Pirates and then later with the Diamondbacks. In our family, he's just known. Jay Bell's name is Pass the Diving Jay Bell because it seemed like pretty often somebody would hit a hit, Pass the Diving Jay Bell, and just the way Vin said it stuck with us. That when an outfielder is chasing the ball, he'd say he's on his horse. And my dad, being a dad, would always say, he's allowed to ride a horse out there. It's just dumb little things like that. But there's things that Vinny would say that just stick with you. And, everybody knows it's time for Dodger baseball, but I think probably all of us who grew up listening to Vin have little things that we might not even remember. We say that because of Vin Scully. Obviously Deuces Wild is a big one. And Joe Davis will bust out every once in a while. I think we need to spend at least a minute, Vince, on Joe Davis tonight. Like, I don't know if he had any advance warning. He probably knew he was sick, and so he's probably known there was a chance that this news might come down while he's on the air. But what a great job he did, paying tribute to Vin, and still doing his job, calling the game when all of us. I don't know. The game didn't really matter at that point. Although I did find myself when Evan Phillips came in and got out of that bases with a no-out jam. It was almost like I was like, oh yeah, I do love baseball. Thanks, Vin. I had been I don't care about this game. And then I was fired up again. And then Alex Vesia gets back to my strike and I was fired up again, it's like, it was fitting that on a night that we were remembering the guy who taught us to love baseball, that we got a chance to love baseball. And I thought Joe Davis did a great job.
Yeah. And I honestly, since Joe wasn't on the broadcast Monday, I assumed he wasn't going to be on the broadcast Tuesday. And with the game being on TBS and not blacked out, I decided to be a company man and have the game on TBS. But as soon as I saw the news, I turned over to Sportsnet and, figured I'm going to be on Sportsnet the rest of the night. And yeah, the way he covered it, it just not exactly what you expect from Joe Davis, especially the way he stepped in for Vin Scully in general. After Vin Scully was done broadcasting for the Dodgers, it was great. And for him, he didn't grow up a Dodger fan. He didn't grow up in LA. He doesn't have that connection to Vin Scully. His connection's more so just knowing, broadcasters in general. I'm sure he studied them growing up because that's what he wanted to be, taking over for Vin Scully, meeting him, getting, he talks about the time when Vin Scully was calling him and he ignored Vin Scully's call twice when Vin Scully was going to tell him about the job or congrats to the job or whatever it was. And so he has a different connection with him, but it's still a more personal connection. And, he held it together pretty well, better than I probably could have. We heard the Rick Monday, his call from AM 570, that one you felt the emotion in it. And, that makes more sense. He has a lot longer connection or a lot longer relationship with Vin, but, just the way Joe was able to mix the game in with talking about Vin was very similar to the way Vin mixed in his anecdotes and stories into the game and weaved it perfectly together. And yeah, we're just lucky to have him now as the voice of the Dodgers. And yeah, he couldn't ask for a better person to take over and do that. And especially in this moment.
Yeah, you can't replace Vin Scully. And one of the best things about Joe Davis is he knows that, and he's not trying to. He's his own person, and he did a great job. And Rick Monday did a great job with that. Mike Kruko's call on the Giants-Dodger game on the Giants broadcast. Kruko said, I loved him. He taught me baseball. It was a goal of mine just to have him say my name on the radio. I figured if he said my name on the radio, I'd arrived. I remember when Rob Segedin got his first major league home run, and then that night his wife had their first child, and the next day Vin got to say, I don't even remember the kid's name. I know there was a Robin involved. Was Rob's wife Robin or was his kid Robin? Anyway, but I remember thinking, man, this kid is a day old and Vin Scully has already said his name. All I want is for Vin to say my name. He never did, but he said Jeff and he said Snider, and so there's probably technology to make it sound like he said my name. But you know what, man, I love Vin. I'm really, really sad tonight, but in what I'm going to read in a little bit, one of the things he wished for us was for every tear a smile. And it's fitting that for all the smiles he gave us over the years, he's given us a lot of tears tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it was living alone. Sometimes you go through things, and this is one of those things where, man, I wouldn't like have not to have been alone today. Just would have been like to have been somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, then I think the last thing is just like the voiceovers he used to do, whether it was kids on the screen or when there was a brawl or a discussion, a heated discussion going on, and fertilizer and bleeping fertilizer. And I don't know if Vin's ever cursed in his life, probably not, because that's just the type of guy he is. But it was, yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff, and maybe we'll have another segment about him, I would imagine, so if we think about more things. But yeah, I think what you're going to read is going to take us out perfectly right now, and yeah, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, it's too bad our ads today weren't for Farmer John and Unical 76. But yeah, in Vin's last broadcast on October 2nd, 2016, he closed out like this. He said, friends, so many people have wished me congratulations on a 67-year career in baseball, and they've wished me a wonderful retirement with my family. And now all I can do is tell you what I wish for you. May God give you for every storm a rainbow, for every tear a smile, for every care a promise and a blessing in each trial, for every problem life sends a faithful friend to share, for every sigh a sweet song and an answer for each prayer. You and I have been friends for a long time, but I know in my heart that I've always needed you more than you've needed me, and I'll miss our time together more than I can say. But you know what? There will be a new day and eventually a new year. And when the upcoming winter gives way to spring, rest assured it will be time for Dodger baseball. So this is Vin Scully wishing you a very pleasant good afternoon, wherever you may be.
Thank you, Vin. That's going to do it for today's episode. Thank y'all for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. You know where to find us. You know how to get a hold of us. And we're going to take it out here. Have a good one.
See you guys.